Sponsored by Stand Up to All Hate. Call a timeout against hate.
If I were to just present to you with no names involved, and I just told you like this. So there's a team who went to the playoffs last year, and coming into this year, they lost their defensive coordinator. Their offensive line got worse. They lost their starting running back, and they basically did nothing to improve the roster. What were you expecting?
And this is an all-in season.
what were you expecting was going to happen? And I say this to somebody who was very high on the Cowboys coming into this season because I overthought it because I looked at it and said they must know something that we don't know, because nobody could figure out what the term all-in meant when it felt like you were more all out. That it was, the O-line got worse. The running back was gone. Defensively, there was some losses. And on top of that, you lose your starting quarterback and your best defensive player missed time because he hurt his leg.
A lot of time.
So you're looking at it going, so what was the idea here? Like what? And I hope Mike McCarthy gets another opportunity. I'm skeptical. Like I find it, hard to believe that we are down at this end of the road and they're just going to go in a different direction. But I hope that he gets a chance. And I think when you hear Dak Prescott, when you hear Mike McCarthy talking about, well, players haven't quit, and Dak Prescott saying in so many words, I hope he gets an opportunity to do it on his terms. I think people there are like, dude, Jerry, you put him in a crap spot.
He's not going to get to do it on his terms. That's the point. So now, again, the question becomes, think about it. I brought up Bill Parcells. You know what his record was with Dallas? 34-30. So just over 500 in wins totals, right? And no longevity. Didn't stay very long. And had no playoff wins. Had 0 playoff wins. You're talking about the tuna, one of the best coaches to do it in the history of the game. I just think that you have to be realistic in what your expectations are. And I almost feel as though if you look at Jerry Jones's model, it just makes sense to think you have a coach that can handle being criticized the way that he is by the media, by the fan base. You have a coach that still is able to win games. Well, and this has been a poor season for them, but as you mentioned, they're doing a little better now. There seems to be some improvements, but this man has posted an over 60% winning percentage as your head coach. So Jerry Jones is like, look, I got everything I need in this coach to get us to a certain point. Whatever that point is, I don't know. But he'll get us, it'll carry us 2 more years, 3 more years, 4 more years. I mean, it's the same thing he did with Jason Garrett. A lot of people thought Jason Garrett was out of there long before he was out of there. And a lot of that, to me, I believe, is Jason Garrett gave you enough of a glimmer of hope that there could be a chance that they could make a Super Bowl run. Mike McCarthy has historically, not as of late this season, but historically has given you hope, a glimmer of hope that this team can win a Super Bowl, can compete for a Super Bowl. In fact, coming into this season, people were saying that the Dallas Cowboys could be competitive to go to the Super Bowl. They said it was a lock that they win the NFC East, a lock that they win the NFC East, and that they would be one of the teams contending to go to the Super Bowl. As long as Jerry Jones can keep people like you believing that this is what it is for as long as he can before it totally runs out, like right when it gets, it's like, now do it. As long as he can get that far with Mike McCarthy, I would assume it would make sense to keep Mike McCarthy because you do not have a roster that can win a Super Bowl.
So if I were to throw out some names to you, and these are the big names that are out there, obviously Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, is going to be one of the popular candidates. But, if Jerry Jones is looking, and who knows, maybe he thinks the Bears are a better job. Maybe he thinks one of these other jobs is a better job because he's going to be the hot commodity. But if you're Jerry Jones And let's say Deion Sanders doesn't come to Dallas because Shador's not going there, and he'd rather stay at Colorado or go elsewhere to coach with his son. So let's say Deion's out. Let's say Belichick's out because he doesn't want an owner that's going to meddle in everything because he started to get that towards the end in New England. That didn't go well. And let's say Vrabel's out because somebody gives him a better deal elsewhere. Who knows? Maybe Ohio State knocks on his door and says, "Hey, Mike, what do you think? Ryan Day didn't hold up his end of the bargain in the rivalry of the game." If you're Jerry Jones and you're looking around at the other candidates that are out there, nobody is more qualified than Mike McCarthy. Like literally, no, and you would argue he's more qualified than Vrabel. He's more qualified than Deion Sanders. Outside of Belichick, who else is more qualified than him?
And I just gave you Bill Parcells. That is Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Bill Parcells is Bill Belichick.
So, like, the idea that you're just going to, we'll just move on and we'll get some. No, the reality is this. When his quarterback is healthy and when he's got at least somewhat of a roster with a plan and ingredients to have success to go into his. Yes.
He wins. He just doesn't win the big game. They just don't win in the playoffs at a rapid clip. They just don't make Super Bowl appearances. So that's what it is.
And if you hear Jerry Jones say it, and you hear Dak Prescott say it, and all the players have come out and said, "Listen, like there's no like we love Mike McCarthy. Nobody's quit on him. Like nobody's saying." And I also look at it and I think he's got the perfect demeanor for the job, because it's now when comments come out and Jerry Jones is talking about the offense and which quarterback is going to play when Dak went down and all this stuff. Mike McCarthy's demeanor this entire season I've loved, because Mike McCarthy just looks at it and says, "Yeah, whatever, dude. Like, look, I'm the coach. I know more about football than you. He's going to make these comments. This is Dallas. I'm used to it. Whatever. I'm just going to go out and coach these guys. We're going to try and separate ourselves from the drama, and we're just going to go out and try and compete." And then you look at their schedule down the stretch and you go, it's not impossible that they could finish with a winning record. They're 5-7 right now. They've won 2 in a row in the division. They've got Cincinnati coming up. They're at Carolina. They've got Tampa Bay, and then they've got Philly and Washington. If all of a sudden Mike McCarthy's got this team at 9-8 to close out the year, if they go on a little bit of a run and get, decent quarterback play, if you were to tell me with what he got coming into the season, Dak Prescott going down with injury and all the other losses they've suffered from a health standpoint, they've got no running game whatsoever, they're on a backup quarterback, and Mike McCarthy somehow gets this team to finish above 500, I got to be honest, man, that's a hell of a job. like a hell of a job. New defensive coordinator. The Mike Zimmer experience has been a little bit off. It's just because Jerry Jones threw out the idea of, well, we need to have this happen this year. Like, this is what we're demanding. We've got to win in the postseason. We've got to win in the playoffs. Yet he rolled out a less than roster from a year ago and expected better results and didn't factor in, well, there could be some injuries. I look at it and I go, I hope he gets an opportunity. I hope he sticks around and gets an extension. I just don't know if Jerry Jones is already too far down the road mentally with his thought process of a head coach for next year that he thinks, yeah, I'm just going to make the switch. So hopefully for Mike, he sticks around.
How many teams is this? All right, let's do this. St. Louis wins it in 2000. Let's go to 2000. St. Louis, the Rams win it in 2000, all right, as the St. Louis Rams. I don't know if we should count them as – do we count that as the same team even as the Los Angeles Rams? Do we do that? Yes, no.
And now they're St. Louis, because then if you do that, then the Browns have won a Super Bowl when the Ravens did.
I don't know, because the Rams are still the Rams. The Browns aren't the Ravens. The Ravens are the Ravens. Right. So, I mean, they do honor the St. Louis Rams players at Rams games in L.A.
I mean, when the L.A. Rams won a Super Bowl, one of the the mayors of L.A. or somebody like that, like the politician, came out in a St. Louis Rams jersey. So there was that.
Let's split a hair and let's just say, okay, we'll make them two different franchises. Okay, in 2000, the Rams won. That's one team. Baltimore won it the next year. New England won it the year after that. That's 3 teams. Then you have Tampa Bay, New England. We'll keep it at New England. Then Pittsburgh's a new one. Indianapolis wins one. All right. Then you have the Giants. They add on to the list, 7 teams. All right. Then you have New Orleans. That's a new team. Then Green Bay jumps on the list. They're a new team. Then Seattle jumps on the list. Denver, that makes 11. Philly, that's 12. Kansas City, that's 13. 13 teams since 2000. Since 2000. We're in 2024.
Yeah.
And 13 teams have won the Super Bowl. 13 teams. There's 32 teams in the NFL. Some of these teams ain't winning Super Bowls. Think about it. 13 teams. And the reason why it's only 13 is because they're repeating. These teams that are winning the Super Bowls, they find ways, even if there's a break in time, they find ways back to the Super Bowl. They're repeating. 13 in 24 years. To me, when you look at the league, there has to be an understanding of it's probably not likely that we're going to win a Super Bowl, but I want to feel as though our team is good enough to compete for it. And then now the rest of the marketing and the advertising and how you brand your organization and your franchise becomes the most important piece of what you're doing for your business. You have to sell hope. You have to sell excitement. If you can't do that, then you're just a team, a franchise that they're serviceable to the fan bases that they have, but they're not going to be, it's not going to be at the level of what a Dallas is. The one thing I'll give Jerry Jones credit for is he has consistently built the value of this Dallas Cowboys franchise, and they have not been one of those 13 teams that has won a Super Bowl since 2000. But yet and still within that amount of time, they've become the most valuable franchise in the NFL. Jerry Jones is selling his fan base. He's selling the football world hope. So the more I think about it today, do I look at Jerry Jones and say, when he said this is an all-in year, did he mean that? Probably not. He probably looked at his roster and said, hey, we're not going to win the Super Bowl with this group. I'm gonna sell it and I'm going to believe in it, but we're not. But we need to get as much out of this team as we possibly can. And that might just be Mike McCarthy, who is that guy and can continue to do that for a little bit longer until it's time to find that next guy you bring in that now we can present them as this is the new guy that's selling hope.
Yeah.
That's what I think the whole idea of all of this is. So does it make sense to bring Mike McCarthy back and give him an extension? Yes, because I don't think you're going to bring in somebody at this moment with this roster the way that it is. You're wasting a hire. If you hire a coach now, you're wasting a hire because you do not have a team roster in place where you could sell that hope of, new coach, now we're going to the Super Bowl. It doesn't, I don't, as much as I love Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott is your franchise guy. As much as you look at it from an individual's perspective, you can't come to the conclusion that a coach is going to take this team to the Super Bowl.
It'd be great is if Jerry Jones decided at the end of the year, Mike, we want to bring you back. Here's what we're willing to offer you. And McCarthy was like, nah, I'm good. Later, man. I've had enough. We're all good here. I got my ring. You can go figure yours out in another 30 years. I'm good. I got mine figured out.
Sponsored by Stand Up to All Hate. Call a timeout against hate.